Hello and welcome to your favorite show, Identities Umhlobo, your TV show that talks about your social, economic and political issues. We're during the 16 days of activism where we're talking about gender-based violence against girls and young women. And we've been very privileged in the past few weeks to profile women leaders. And today I'm joined in the studio by Jennifer Savage from the United States Embassy. She's the Deputy Chief of Missions. Simply put, she's number 2. Welcome to the show, Jennifer.
Thank you so much. It's really a pleasure to be with you.
Great. And as has been my tradition on this show, we want to start by connecting with you, the female leader. Mm-hmm. Would you like to tell us when your leadership journey started?
Oh my goodness. It must have started as a child. I had great models of female leadership. My mother was a single mother and also an executive. My father was an executive as well, and he demanded no less than leadership from me as a female. I remember when I was invited to join the Foreign Service, our diplomatic corps. And
you were invited?
I passed the exams and succeeded and managed to join the Foreign Service. And that meant a lot of travel around the world. And I remember having a conversation with my father saying, I don't know, I really always have wanted to do this, but I wanted to do it with a family. I don't know about, if I do this now single, will I ever meet someone? Will I ever get married if I'm traveling the world? And my father just stopped me right there and he said, how many men do you think are thinking of not joining the diplomatic corps because they're not married? And so it was a great opportunity to just pull me up short. And my father did that at every opportunity. Anytime I absorbed gender-based sort of opinions and some bias sort of against my own gender, my father would call me up short and say, why are you making that assumption about yourself and about your gender? So it started young.
It's very interesting because when I finished high school, my brothers and my siblings sat together to determine my next steps when regarding my tertiary education. And I remember one of my brothers said, oh, she can do marketing. And the same brother in the same meeting then said, oh, she can do marketing because she's going to get married. But when she gets married, maybe marketing requires a lot of traveling. But then anyway, I then went on to do my marketing. But it's also interesting to realize that in the United States, you also actually had to think about those things. Do you feel like the United States and Zimbabwe have similarities as far as the issues of, sexism, patriarchy are concerned?
I think our cultures are slightly different, but I think we all face the same issues. These are human issues in many ways, no matter where you are. Another example of where I face this very similar to yours was I was in our process. We sort of bid on our next assignment, and I was bidding on this job to be the number 2 at the US Embassy here.
But congratulations, by the way.
Well, thank you. But shortly after I found out I had gotten this job here in Harare, I also found out I was pregnant. And so I have a 2-year-old now, but many, many people stopped me and said, oh, well, since you're having the baby, you're going to decline the job. And it never occurred to me that just because I was having a child. And several people said, well, you'll be so busy, you won't have time for the baby, or you won't have time for the job, you won't be sleeping, you won't be able to do a good job. And many, many people questioned me and challenged me and just made the assumption. And I think it's sort of a common human experience to all question, can we really have it all? Can we all do it all? And of course, we all have to make choices that are right for ourselves, for our families, for our professions and our careers. You have to make the choices that are right for you. But it is all possible. It is possible to do marketing and get married and have a family and be the number 2.
You got a ring on it, so
I do indeed.
So it's amazing because I know across the world right now there's this conversation. I think that was there decades ago as well. That if you you have a child and you're a mom and you go to work, then you're not a good mom. But it's also something that is interesting in that. Whereas I remember I was in Europe recently, there's a lot of discussions around that. But in Zimbabwe, we are not necessarily having that conversation. Amazingly so, because women can just, if somebody got a job, because maybe also there is, it's cheaper to hire a housemaid here, probably in Africa and Zimbabwe. So women can easily, if you are able to get a job, if you are able to have had an education, I think it's on a few occasions where a woman have to choose between a child and their job. It's interesting that across the world it's happening, including in the United States of America. But you mentioned that though that there differences. What would be the differences between Zimbabwe and the US?
One of the things that occurs to me, I recently heard that there was a study of youth and adolescents in Zimbabwe, and particularly looking at gender-based violence.
Right.
And a number of the respondents, when asked why they did not report the gender-based violence that had happened to them, they responded that they didn't realize it was a problem. They had no idea it was a problem. It's just expected, and it's something that is supposed to happen, or you expect it to happen. And I think that is a dangerous and frightening message. I am so sorry for every child and girl in Zimbabwe who thinks it's normal to have experienced gender-based violence. It is not normal. It is not expected. It is not something that anyone should feel that. But back to the cultural difference, I think in the United States, many people know that it's wrong. Many people know that it isn't normal. It isn't expected. It doesn't mean it doesn't happen in the United States. There are a lot of reasons why gender-based violence continues to occur, but most everyone knows it's wrong and knows that there are resources out there to help them when they do need to reach out for help.
That is so profound and something that's in the culture of, we still have a culture of gender-based violence where it's acceptable, where even stigma or the society community can actually turn against you because you reported. And also that reminds me of the time when we started really now talking about child marriages. And I remember people actually arguing that, oh, we don't have child marriages in Zimbabwe, because it's people grew up seeing it and they didn't see anything wrong with that. And on that note, viewer, we're gonna come back from the break and we continue with the conversation. Stay with us.